Hi all of you awesome scuba divers out there, welcome to Scuba Diver Magazine and welcome to Ask Mark, our scuba diving Q&A. While I'm Mark, a former dive instructor, doing my best to answer your scuba diving questions. So if you do have any scuba diving questions, by all means pop them down in the comment section underneath this video. I'll get to them as soon as possible. I'll type you out an answer, just so you get an answer sooner rather than later. And if you use this hashtag, it just highlights it behind the scenes so that I can see it. And if it's a very interesting question and something that someone else might learn from, I'll turn it into a video just like this one. But today I'm answering a question from Chris about second stages, but more specifically the breathing adjustment knob. So Chris says, hello Mark, recently I purchased my first set of new equipment. Congratulations. Had my cylinder filled, tested my BCD low pressure inflator, the submersible pressure gauge, tried my Genesis Prana regulators. Octo was fine. My question is about the Venturi control on the Prana main regulator. When I first tried to breathe on the surface, I noticed the knob keeps turning in both directions. Is that normal? So the first thing is, I needed a bit more clarification from Chris, and we managed to just nail down the fact that we're talking about the breathing adjustment knob and not the Venturi switch. They're two different switches, and what they were actually asking is that on some second stages, so most second stages will have fairly similar controls if you have a Venturi switch and a breathing adjustment knob. So you have a Venturi switch, which is usually like a positive or a negative, and that's just whether you're improving the airflow or you're reducing the amount of airflow to help reduce the chances of free flows. And then you have a breathing adjustment knob, which basically adjusts the force of the spring on the valve so that it's a little bit easier to open that valve or a little bit harder. Again, it helps to reduce free flows or just reduce the work of breathing. And on some second stages like this XTX50, when you screw it all the way in, it stops. And when you unscrew it, funnily enough, eventually it stops. On some second stage designs, you'll notice that when you unscrew it, it stops, but when you screw it in, it just keeps going and it keeps clicking. So some breathing adjustment knobs have like a clutch design, so that it like disconnects the rotating section, and that can obviously confuse some divers as to whether it's still doing something or whether it's actually broken. It's not broken, it's just the design choice. And the main reason for this is to prevent it from like being locked in one particular position. So when you have like two metal sections and they're being unscrewed and it goes all the way out to the like outermost setting or the most innermost setting, if you leave it like that, especially when it's wet and then dries, it can kind of stick in that position, and then you're unsure whether it's fully open or fully closed, and you decide to get like a wrench or something, and then you really heave it, you can damage the parts. So with this, they decided to, you know what, let's just develop a system that disconnects it so that it can't force itself and damage itself. And that way, when you hear the click, you know it's all the way in. And then in this case, when it's all the way out, you just know it's all the way out. So that way you can kind of, you know which is which. So there's nothing wrong with the second stage. That kind of is the mechanism, or at least I presume, because I've never used a Genesis Prana regulator, but it is quite a common feature to have that kind of clicking clutch mechanism. And yeah, they also had it on the Venturi, and Venturis are typically on or off. It's just rotating a little collar on the inside, and when they added the click, like on this, this is a 212, yeah, 212 second stage from Hollis. People would say, oh, I like it like 2 clicks forwards. No, it is kind of on or off. You might get a slight effect of its being, but it is just really on or off. Those kind of clicks, I don't think the manufacturers kind of think that people will take it that seriously. It's more of a kinetic thing that you know that it's physically moving, but or like an auditory response, so that you know that it is moving. But yeah, when you have that many clicks, some people think that each is like a graduated setting. It is kind of on or off, basically. No, to answer your question, it's perfectly fine. If it rotates and moves by itself, and it's not your hand that's physically doing it, that's something that's wrong. If any of your settings move when you're not touching it, if they just move when you're breathing, there's something wrong with that second stage. You should really get that checked out. But for it to just continue to screw, that's perfectly fine. That's very normal on some second stage designs, but not all. Yeah, it's tricky when you buy your first set of regulators or equipment, and like school equipment when you're learning to dive is usually fairly basic. It might have breathing adjustment and Venturi switches. It depends how much budget they have in their school equipment, but most second stages for like school use won't. It'll just be very basic. You will have the purge button on the front, and that's about it. So when you then go to buy your new dive equipment, and you've never really experienced it before, yeah, you come across something like that and you kind of think, that's kind of weird. It will probably explain it in the manual. I know everyone very fervently reads through every single user manual whenever they buy new dive equipment or a new set of regulators. However, it is important to read your user manuals, just because they do explain these sorts of things, but sometimes they don't. Yeah, that's a normal feature, and if you've only experienced second stages like an XTX50 where it has definitive stops when you open and close it, then yeah, why would you sort of suddenly expect, oh, okay, now it's screwing, but it's continuing to screw, and it's also got this kind of clicking noise. That doesn't sound quite right. Yeah, it is quite reasonable to think that there might be something wrong where there actually isn't anything wrong. But yeah, I quite like second stages that don't have noises and clicky bits and kind of ambiguity to whether the setting's on or off. I don't need that audio feedback. It's just, okay, it's in that like positive position or negative position. That kind of bugs me. But hey, it's a design choice. But yeah, any other questions, by all means, let me know down in the comment section underneath this video. Use this AskMark hashtag, gets it featured in an up and coming video. And yeah, remember to head over to our website, scubadivermag.com. Check out our magazine and all the stuff that we do over there. Thank you for watching, everybody, and of course, safe diving.